Hey guys, Matt here, and welcome back to another episode of Matthew Land of the Techno Man. In today's episode, we're going to be continuing off from our System Center Configuration Manager installation, and today is the final installation where we go ahead, configure everything, getting our client computers set up, and configuring our boundaries and sites, and so forth. So without further ado, let's get started. Alrighty guys, welcome back. So it's lovely to have you guys here again. I hope that you have found these videos quite interesting and helpful because I've been loving making them. Today is the final day where we get to go ahead and get everything set up and configured. So we're going to be looking at setting up the boundary groups. We're going to be looking at setting up our Active Directory forest group system and user discovery. And we're also going to be looking at deploying out some software and hopefully looking at operating system deployment a little bit later on during this episode or potentially in another time. So let's get started. So as you guys can see straight away, I've already got System Center opened up, which is great. And it has been behaving itself and it's been working okay since I got it installed. Okay, I take that back. It's decided not to respond for some weird reason. So I'm just going to close that and reopen it. Probably because I left it open earlier when I was doing a bit of testing. All right. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to be setting up our discovery and our boundary groups today. And in those two episodes, in the previous couple of configurations that we did, we're going to go ahead and look at doing this. And this will allow us to help discover the computers that are currently on the network. And there are 4 different discovery methods, which is the Active Directory Forest Discover, the System Discovery, the User Discovery, and the Group Discovery. So we're also going to set up a Network Discovery as well. There's lots and lots of different discovery methods, as I've just stated there, and we're going to go ahead and configure some of these. So let's get started. So the first things first that we're going to need to go ahead and do is we're going to go into the administration, and we're going to go ahead and look for our discovery methods, which will be located in our hierarchy settings. And here's our discovery methods here. Now, as you can see, there are all of our default ones here, and this is how we do it. So the first things first, we're going to go ahead and configure our Active Directory Forest Discovery. So all we're going to go ahead and do is double click, and hopefully it's going to launch it. Here it is. And all we're going to go ahead and do is click on Enable Active Directory Forest Discovery, and we're going to select Allow every 1 week. And that's how we set that one up. Then we click Apply, and it will ask, do we want to run this full discovery as soon as possible? The answer is yes. The other one I forgot to mention that we're going to need to select is select automatically create IP. Just having a look at my notes here. We're going to go ahead and select these 2 as well. I forgot to select that. Okay, fantastic. So that one's now been enabled. The next one we're going to go ahead and do is set up our group discovery. So let's go ahead and set that one up. So okay, double click again. This one's a little different. So what we're going to go ahead and do is select Enable Active Directory Discovery. And then we're going to go ahead and add our group. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to click and add location. So let's go ahead and click on our location. And then we need to specify our OUs. So in this case, I'm going to be selecting 2 OUs. In this case, my Rockwood main OU. I'm going to call this Rockwood main OU. And then I'm going to go add another location. I'm going to add my servers in here like so. I don't want to be adding every single one, so this is why I'm just creating these like so. Okay, then I'm going to click OK. Then what we're going to go ahead and do is, once that's all added, they'll be discovered. Okay, let's go into our polling schedule. And now what we're going to go ahead and do is schedule this. So we're going to click on schedule, and we're going to put in today's date. And we're going to start the discovery at, let's just say, 4 p.m. because it's about to be 4 p.m. And we're going to configure this to be custom interval. We could do, every 1 hour we do a discovery perhaps, or something like that. Now, this is where you guys can go ahead and customize it. Again, I will leave all of the notes in the description. And the other thing that we want to go ahead and do is check off all of these options here. And that way we can leave that running. We're going to click Apply. Then click OK. Yes, and then OK, sorry. Okay, let's go ahead and do our system discovery now. So again, same process. We're going to enable our Active Directory system discovery. And I'm going to click on the path. And in this case, we're just going to go ahead and locate our whole entire network. Like so. And that way it just locates our domain like so. Then I'm going to click OK. Then I'm going to click apply. And then the other thing we're going to go ahead and do is go onto our options here and select both of these here. And then click on apply. That's fine. And then we'll click OK, and that will run the discovery. Next one we're going to go ahead and do is set up our Active Directory user discovery. So let's go ahead and set that up. So I'm going to click on Active Directory user discovery, click on enable Active Directory user discovery. And then what we're going to go ahead and do is select our entire OU again. So in this case, because I've got all my users in different places, I'm just going to select the Rockwood container here for that one. Then I'm going to go ahead and leave everything else as default. I'm just going to have a quick look at our schedule. And probably I'm going to change the schedule to today. Run that at 4 p.m. And then I'm going to recur every 1 hour. That works. Okay. Yes, and okay that. And that's now done. You guys can go ahead and also set up a configuration man. You can set up your heartbeat and network discovery, which is, again, the same way of you can set it up, you set your subnets up, all that sort of stuff. But for now, I'm not going to enable that. We're just going to leave everything as default, and the heartbeat we're just going to leave as well. Actually, we might just change that to every, probably, let's say 1 hour, we can send a heartbeat to see if that discovery data or something like that. You can enable that if you want. Just a couple of changes. So now we need to go ahead and configure a boundary. So a boundary is essentially a network location on the intranet that can contain one or more of the devices that you want to manage. And boundaries can be used for IP subnets, Active Directory site names, IPv6 prefixes, or an IP address range. And the hierarchy can include a combination of these boundary types. So before we can use the boundary though, we have to create a boundary group, and these are collections of our boundaries. So you've got your boundary groups, and then within those boundary groups, you've got your boundary. And this will allow us then to put the clients on the intranet, and they can be found and that sort of stuff. So let's go ahead and create our boundary group. So as you can see here, we've got our boundary groups here. And as you can see, there's a default site boundary right now, but we're going to go ahead and create a new one. And I'm going to call this our new boundary group. You can call it whatever you like, but I'm going to call it MPAL boundary. And from there, I'm going to select our boundaries. In this case, it's the default first site name, which has already been selected for us. And then I'm going to click apply. The other thing we're going to go ahead and do is set up our references, and we're going to select on use this boundary group for the site assignment of my assigned site. And then we're going to then click on the site system servers and select deploy 01. Then click apply. Okay, so if I now go ahead and close this, you'll see that we now have our boundary group. And if I go into our default first site name on the boundaries, you'll see here that it's now a part of our default first name site. And as you can see the boundary groups, it's linked to our MPAL boundary group. Okay, so that concludes that part. Let's get into our next stage. So again, I'm just going to pull up some more notes. So just give me 1 more minute. All right, so let's go ahead and get our next part configured. Apparently, this website I'm trying to access has got a privacy issue, so there you go. And what we're going to go ahead and do is wait for that to... Okay, clearly it's been removed since I last tried to use it, which sucks because I'm trying to access the information. But just give me a couple of minutes and then I'll go ahead and look at some other stuff. Alrighty guys, so I'm back. So did a little research and I've got what I needed. It just turns out the original website I needed was gone. But that's okay, we've got another one we can go ahead and use. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and configure some we're going to set up some system roles, and then we're going to go ahead and do our next part of actually deploying the software out to the client. So let's go ahead, and the first things first is we're going to go back into our site configuration here. And then what we're going to go ahead and do is click on sites, and then we're going to click on add system roles. So hopefully this loads. Okay, so as you guys can see straight away, we're going to leave everything here as default for the moment. And we're also going to leave the proxy as well by default. Unless, of course, you have got a proxy in your environment, we aren't going to need that. So a couple of things we're going to use for this particular one is we're going to use an application catalog website point, an application catalog web service point, and also using a fallback status point. At this stage, we aren't going to use anything else, but you can go ahead and customize this as much as you'd like. Okay, so let's go to the fallback status. We're going to leave everything here as default. And again, we're going to click next. Now, this is going to be the IIS default website. We're also going to go ahead and leave this as default as well. This part, again, we're not going to change anything. I'm just having a look here. There's nothing at this stage that we really need to modify again. And for the cluster as well, we're going to just leave this one apart from giving it a name. So this will help users be able to understand what it is. So my pool solutions, and I'm going to call this PT Limited. Okay. We're going to then go ahead and click next and click summary. And there we guys go. So as you guys can see, the installation was successful and now it's complete. So we're going to have a look at some other things as well that we need to just check that it's actually running correctly. So let's go ahead and I'm going to just leave all of that for now. There's a whole heap of other notes. We're going to go ahead and now that our System Center is actually successfully configured, we've added our roles, we've added all of our installations at this stage. There's still a lot of things that we can go ahead and set up, like client pushes. So we can actually select enable automatic site-wide push installation. And as you can see here, this will actually allow them to be installed. So let's go ahead and I'm going to actually enable this. And as you can see here, we're going to install the configuration manager client software on these following computers: servers and workstations. So workstations, computers. We're going to use, again, there is an account that we can go ahead and use that I've already created. And again, I'm not sure, I probably need to actually add an account. So if I click new account, I'm going to go ahead and look for an account that I created called Rockwood/SCCM push. And I'm going to allow that to be the user that will send out the push. Again, I will be including links in the description as well, and in the documentation there are going to be some additional steps and so forth. All right, so now that we've gone ahead and done that, the next thing we're going to go ahead and look at doing is we've applied that. We're going to go ahead and see what happens now. So as you guys can see, we can leave all the installation properties as default by now, but we can go ahead and set up a couple of other things as well. We can go to our client settings here, and as you can see, there is a default client settings. We can actually create a custom default one, and that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. So I'm going to select on create custom device client settings, and this is now going to hopefully allow me to do a couple of things. So I'm going to call this my pool solutions default settings. And we're going to change a couple of things. So for example, I want the remote tools and the software center installed. We're also going to have power management as well, and you can enable all of these by using what you want in your connections. I'm also going to select on computer restart and also computer agent. So these are a couple of things that I particularly want to use for my clients. So let's go ahead, let's have a look at our computer agent. So as you guys can see here, this is a couple of things that we can look at. Deployment deadline within 24 hours. This is all just sort of default stuff that you can work around with. The other thing is we can just bypass PowerShell, that sort of stuff. This is, again, stuff that you can play around with, and I'm not going to go into too much detail about this, but what this means is here, if you want to display your name on the software center, you can go ahead and customize it like this. So we'll go ahead and do that now. If I wanted to go ahead and do a computer restart, this will allow us, if we want to go ahead and restart the computer, they've got 90 minutes to do that. As well as the hardware inventory, we can go ahead and leave this as well, and we can have a look at, this will allow us to check what's on the computers. So I might run that every, say, like 30 minutes. Power management as well will allow us to enable them to be switched on if we need to. Remote tools will allow us to go ahead and log on to the computer. So I'm going to apply this to all of the firewalls. And as you can see, users can change the policy. Nope, so this means we have full access no matter what. We can allow remote control of an unattended computer. Now, as you can see, we can prompt the user for remote control permission. We can actually, for this one, I'm going to select no, and I'll explain why. In a scenario, if someone's using the computer, you will always want that switched on, but because I'm managing servers and workstations that aren't necessarily logged on, I can go ahead and just leave this one as default. Now, we'll also ask for prompt the user permission to transfer the content. We don't have to do anything like that. We can leave everything else as default. I'm pretty happy with that. And as you guys can see, I'm just going to do a couple of other things as well. We can go ahead and customize the software center. So this is what it's going to look like. So I'm going to put in my pool solutions, PT Limited, because this is just stuff I'm making up. And we can select colors as well. So if we wanted to say we wanted to select a particular color to display on here, we can. I'm also going to go ahead and select a logo for Software Center. So if you wanted to apply a custom logo to System Center, you can go ahead and do that. And I've already got one that I prepared earlier. So I'm just going to go ahead and log on to my server here. Just bear with me for 1 minute. And I'm going to pull up the logo, in this case, my SCCM logo. Okay, now I've applied that, the client settings are ready to go. So hopefully in a minute, what's happened is whilst I've been letting this run, it should have actually started the discovery. And if it hasn't, we're going to do a little bit of troubleshooting. But nope, as I said, as you can see, it's started to go ahead and it's already started to try and identify computers. Now, if you look here as well, you'll see that these ones have got icons here. So they're trying to get in contact with them, or they've actually already got the client installed. And I know that for a fact because I actually blew up this server unintentionally. And that's how I ended up installing System Center again. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just demonstrate on one of my servers here. I've got a server called PowerShell Devo 2. And I want to go ahead and install the client. So I can go ahead and install the client this way. And I'm going to click next. And I'm going to select allow the client software to be installed on domain controllers. Not going to select that one. As you can see here, I'm always going to select install the client software. And if there was already a pre-existing one, we're going to go ahead and uninstall it and then reinstall the new one. And I'm going to select install the client software from the specified site, which is here. So as you guys can see, I'm going to click next. And as you can see, it's going to go ahead and try and install on PowerShell Devo 2. So I can actually go ahead and log on to PowerShell Devo 2 by doing the following. So if I do PowerShell Devo 2 and then I do admin, with a little $sign, I can actually go ahead and log on to it. As you'll see here, there's an SCM setup folder, and this actually allows us to see the logs. This is actually where it's being modified. Now, if you look here, the last time it was installed was on the 15th of the 1st, 2020. So this actually will tell us when there's been an installation that's occurring. Now, today's date is the 6th of the 6th. The only thing that was installed so far are these files here. That's it. Everything else has not been touched or modified just yet. And as you can see as well, 6th of the 6th. Okay, so as you can see, it's currently uninstalling System Center as we speak. So there's a little tool that you can use. I'm just trying to remember what it is that we can use in System Center to actually use the tools to go ahead and look at the logs. There's a special tool we can use. I'm just trying to remember where it's stored. So let's have a look. I think it's in CCM. I can't remember where we store these tools. See if I can find, it should be in here somewhere. It's probably not CI agent. I don't know if it's in there. System Center setup. Now we have the logs here. I'm just trying to find the little utility that allows us to actually look at it. So as you can see, these files are all getting modified right now, which clearly indicates that something is happening. Systems, see this one here? This actually means that right now something is actually happening because today is the 6th of the 6th. This is being modified as we speak. There is a utility that we can use to actually look at the logs. I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head where we store those files. It's got to be in here somewhere. I think I put it in tools if I remember correctly. Unfortunately, SMS setup. Here we go, tools. And as you guys can see, there should be a sim trace. This is it here. So I'm going to go ahead and open this file. And the way you can actually do it is, if you want to be lazy, you can just drag and drop it in, I believe, hopefully. Let's have a look, CCM setup. That's probably not going to work, is it? So let's go ahead, copy that there, file, and I'm going to open a file. And I'm going to put the location in like so. And let's look for our CCM setup file. So as you can see right now, this is actually a current log of what is happening to this server. So as you can see, I'm PowerShell Devo 2, and I'm in the admin folder under the CCM setup logs, and then this is actually what's happening right now as we speak. So if you see here, a couple of things that's happening is it's going to go ahead and remove the, I think it's currently uninstalling the System Center as we speak. And let's have a look as well. There's a couple of other things as well that I'm seeing here. So let's open up another one. I think there's a couple of other ones we may need to look at. Nope, it is, as you can see, it is doing things as well as we speak. So it's, there we go. This is what I wanted to see. So what it's doing right now is it's actually removing it. And it's going to try and put the new client on there. So I have no idea if this is going to work yet. Fingers crossed, touch wood, this is going to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly pause the video and we'll see what happens. Okay guys, so I didn't have to pause that quickly, but there's a couple of little red errors, not too many, but what should happen in a second is this should end with an end 0 or a code to say that it's actually installed with error code 0, with a non-error or something like that if I remember correctly. As you can see at the moment, it actually is going ahead and installing the files, so it clearly says that something is working correctly, which is actually good. So as you can see right now, installing files, which clearly means everything's been copied across and it's working like hunky-dory. The other thing though to mention is as well, you can install SQL or System Center on non-AD devices. It actually is possible. There is a script that you guys can use to do it, and I'm going to show you guys a little later on during this install of System Center. This is going to be a long series because there is so much to cover in about 180 days. So at the moment though, I'm looking at CCM, a couple of settings in here. It's just doing a whole heap of products, but I did see a message earlier that said it installed it earlier, and it's working correctly so far. So we're just going to go ahead and let that run its course and do what it needs to do. And I'm going to go ahead and pause this video, and I'll come back when those changes have been made. Alrighty guys, so I went ahead and logged onto the computer that was actually used to deploy Software Center. So if I show you something here, as you'll see here that recently Software Center was added because it's been in my most used. This also indicates as well to me that the new Software Center is actually loading as we speak. The other thing that we've got to go ahead and do is, in order to display the logo and a couple of other things, is we've got to go ahead and enforce a couple of things. Now, as you guys can see as well, when I paused the video, it exited with return code 7, and everything was successful. A couple of things that it did come down with 0, but as you can see, everything else was absolutely fine. So we have installed the System Center Configuration Manager at this stage. The way we can also check as well is if I go ahead and refresh this, we should get a green tick. Straight away, as you can see, we've got a green tick. This now indicates that this server has now got the System Center client running, which is sensational. Which also means as well, I should be able to do what I said as well on the client settings. Hopefully I can see which ones they're running. I should be able to auto remote control into it as well. Cool. All right. So if I wanted to remote control this, there should be the option to start a remote control. And if I am able to do a remote control, this should mean that I should be able to log on with it through, okay. Probably because it hasn't synced the client settings yet, we may need to go ahead and have a look at that and check that that's running. But so far, so good. We can go ahead and deploy this out to all systems. And if we deploy that out, that now means that all the machines are going to hopefully receive that. In this case, just one, because I've only deployed it out to one at this stage. But what should be happening eventually is that eventually this will hopefully sync. It's probably going to take another 10 or 20 minutes, depending on the situation. But it will get there eventually. So I'm going to go ahead and triple check. This is actually what we're going to be going ahead and deploying out to our device. We can actually also set this to go to other devices as well, or use this if we wanted it to. But I've just chosen system in this case. So this may take a little bit of time to deploy, but what we can go ahead and do if we need to, we can actually hopefully force it. So we're going to do a little bit of testing here for a bit. The other way I know as well if it's going to work is we can go ahead and deploy a test piece of software, which I've got on my drive here. So let's say I wanted to deploy an application. I'm going to deploy Google Chrome. Now I've already gone ahead and downloaded this, so all I'm going to go ahead and do is click on create an application. We're going to have to set up a quick shared drive here as well, and the reason for that is because it needs to be able to access the software from a network perspective. So I'm going to call this software, we could call this System Center SCCM files. Okay, and I'm going to say create a new folder called applications, and I'm going to go ahead and share this one. Now for security perspectives and sharing, I'm just going to go ahead and do a sharing permissions and just allow everyone a read access at this stage. But I'm then going to go ahead and allow domain admins full control, and I'm also going to allow the ICT department, which is also me, full control as well. I'm then going to click apply and then click apply, okay, and close. So now that I've got an applications folder, I'm going to go back into my project folder that I had, and I'm going to get the Google Chrome bundle that I had. I'm going to extract that, and I'm going to grab an installer and grab this one here. I'm going to then go ahead and paste it into my applications folder. So now if I go to the shared folder on deploy01, which is our server, I can go ahead and look for this new one called applications. And there it is. So straight away, I'm going to go ahead, grab that by going to browse and put in my my server's name. Okay, and applications, Google Chrome, boom. Now, because this is an MSI, it hopefully should detect everything is there instead of us having to go ahead and add all the information. As you can see, we can leave everything as default. It's going to say, I want you to run this program, and it just runs it quietly in the background. I'm going to say install for system, otherwise install for the user. Just a good backup plan. And all I'm going to do is just click summary, next, next, and let that install. And that will take a little bit of time. But let's go ahead and see if the software center updated itself yet and received the new. Okay, it still hasn't received our logo yet, so just a little bit more time to have a look and a bit of time to think and see why it's not deploying that out or grabbing it. Now, the other thing though is, as you can see, we have allowed remote control, so probably I suspect at this stage it still hasn't got the still hasn't got access to the client settings that we've deployed out, but we'll wait for that for a little bit longer. As you can see, Google Chrome went ahead and it's deployed, so I'm just going to click on close, and then we've got that in our applications. So if I want to go ahead and deploy this out, I can right click and select deploy, and this will go ahead and deploy this out to those computers we need access to. So I'm going to go ahead and select my collection as all in the devices as all systems, and click next. And we're going to leave everything as default apart from adding a distribution point. And if we want to as well, we can also add a distribution point group, which we don't have in this case. All right, we're going to say it's an install and it's an available. We're not going to schedule this, so if this isn't scheduled, it's going to come out straight away. And we're going to display it in the software center and leave everything as default at this stage. Click next, done. Alrighty, so I've got ahead and deployed that software out now. And now it's just a case of being able to let the client actually be able to pick it up. So I'm not sure how long it's going to take to pick it up, but we're going to just wait for a bit and see what happens. Okay, so as you guys can see here, I went ahead and brought up the configuration manager property. So as you can see here, this is all being accessed correctly. I want to go ahead and force a discovery. And the way we can do this is we can go on the software inventory cycle, and we can actually do as you can see, software inventory cycle, and we can actually do a run now. And what this means is it's going to go ahead and actually update straight away instead of us having to take forever to update it, which is really good. And that way we actually know that, that it's actually receiving those updates that we've deployed out. You can see here as well that there's been a couple of other things as well, as in it's managed to pick up our site. I'm going to just L-scout there. This server is awfully slow today. I don't know why. I might need to turn the light on in a minute as well because it is slightly getting dark. All right, so hopefully it decides to work. Okay, there we go. Nope, go away, taskmap. There we go. All right, now that I've forced that, I probably should be able to just do a function F5 and we'll see if the applications get deployed out. Clearly they're not yet, so we're just gonna have to wait for a couple of minutes again, but I did go ahead and force the update. And the other thing we can go ahead and do is the remote okay, so clearly it's still not picking up the site settings yet. The other one that we can probably go ahead and do is set up our user policy retrieval and also have a look at a couple of other things as well. So I'm just gonna run these now. And once we've done that, we'll hopefully see if the client picks it up. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and pause this a little bit. I'm just gonna pause this and do a little bit more testing in the background. Alrighty guys, so a couple minutes later, after forcing that, as you can see straight away, Google Chrome has launched. So I'm not gonna go ahead and install it, and because the reason for that is, well, I've got Google Chrome right here. But this is how you guys go ahead and install it. You update it, you deploy it out, and it takes a couple of minutes for it to sync. And you just constantly keep hitting F5 and eventually it will load up. But the client settings haven't launched, so I'm going to do a little bit of background investigations on that, and I'll let you guys know in the next episode. But that has been the installation for System Center and the configuration. I hope you guys have found this video interesting and helpful. Any comments, any queries, any questions, of course, please feel free to put them in the comments section below. Please feel free to give this video a like. That lets YouTube know that I'm doing a great job. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe. I'd love to get to know you guys more. Alrighty, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week and take care.